This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Tanner 88, directed by Robert Altman, that came out in 1988.
Really? Did they plan that, or was that a coincidence?
It just worked out that way.
Man, sometimes life's funny, hey?
Synopsis from Letterboxd.
Uh-huh.
Fuck. In 1988, renegade filmmaker Robert Altman and Pulitzer Prize-winning Doonesbury cartoonist Gary Trudeau created a presidential candidate, ran him alongside the other hopefuls during the primary season, and presented their media campaign as a cross between a soap opera and TV news. The result was the groundbreaking Tanner 88, a piercing satire of media age American politics.
Who said it was groundbreaking?
A guy I know.
Okay. I'll take you at your word.
I know a guy. Okay. So, I had never seen Tanner 88 before this week.
Okay.
In my mind, I've always thought it was another movie, and I should have looked this up before. It's like Bob Roberts.
What did you think that movie was about?
I don't know, but in my mind, Bob Roberts and Tanner 88 could be the same movie, because Bob Roberts is a 1992 satirical mockumentary about the rise of Robert Bob Roberts Jr., a right-wing politician who is a candidate for an upcoming United States Senate election. Roberts is well-financed due mainly to past business dealings and is well known for his folk music, which presents conservative ideas with gusto. Starring old Tim Robbins, directed by Tim Robbins. Written by Tim Robbins. So, I just, these things were interchangeable without knowing anything about really what Tanner 88 was. But I knew one was directed by Robert Altman. Maybe they're all one movie. Who fucking knows? They could be.
So wait, were they saying that Tanner 88 was groundbreaking because it was like mockumentary? Do you think that's what they were going for?
Well, I guess the way that this whole production worked is pretty unique.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, maybe they don't know about capes, because that's probably the first mockumentary. No.
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong.
No.
I thought, but.
Well, so this is. So this is referred to as a political mockumentary miniseries, and what is this? This only the second TV series that we've actually talked about here on the Criterion Creeps podcast, unless you count Scenes of a Marriage, which you don't. So we've had Fishing with John,
which is a
shot on video miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
That is also kind of a mockumentary.
No, that's 100%. That's true. That's
real.
An actual documentary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And if you don't
including the death of Willem Dafoe and John Lurie.
Well, yeah, that's why it's so sad, dude. That's why they put it in the Criterion Collection.
But then they did that next episode.
Well, yeah, but life's funny sometimes. Has anything ever happened to you? You're like, man, that sucks. But then the next day, you're like, I'm over it.
Right.
Happened to them.
So, this aired on HBO, and I guess its screening, air dates were kind of a little bit all over the place, depending on whatever the events were that they were corresponding with. Because, so the production is that Robert Altman and Gary Trudeau, the creator of the allegedly beloved comic strip Doonesbury. You know about that Doonesbury, RJ?
Is it anything like Dilbert?
It is probably the exact same in some ways, but no, different. It's an institution. It's been around for 50 years, this comic.
So when I Google Doonesbury, I am directed to a place in Peterborough, UK. Apparently there's a Planet Ice.
Did you look up Doonesbury?
Yeah.
Bury.
Okay, so we're not looking at Peterborough, UK.
No.
Next to Lime Academy, Watergale, and Hicks Cycles.
No.
Okay, let's look up Doonesbury. Doonesbury Park,
Dunes-
Havant, United Kingdom.
No, maybe let's try Trudeau.
True. It's just Justin. What's his first name again?
Gary with 2 R's.
2 R's. Interesting.
This is live podcasting, pal.
This is live
Our
podcasting.
RJ is just finding out things as we're opening up here, talking about Tanner 88.
So did you know that Gary Trudeau's real first name is Garrettson? Garrettson. So it's very in like with your actual name. Garrett.
That's a stretch. Have you ever heard of this other show that he worked on called Alpha House, starring your boy, John Goodman?
I have. I've always been confused by why John Goodman's in that, because it's like that Blue Mountain State kind of thing. And I was always like, why is John Goodman in this? I never really understood. But I've never watched it. I have no opinion on it. But I'm looking at Doonesbury now. And I got to tell you, Jarrett, some pretty high-quality graphic novels right here in these panels.
That's some doodling right there.
Some real quality doodling from the Zonker himself. Interesting.
Yeah. So he worked on this with Robert Altman. That like anytime you read about anything Altman in the 80s, everyone, including when we were talking about Secret Honor last week, was like this was Altman at his low point. He really had bottomed out in the 80s.
When was he at a high point?
70s, and then he came back roaring with the 90s. We'll be talking about Shortcuts in like 3 weeks. The Player in like 10 years. But yeah,
why is there so much Robert Altman this year?
I don't know.
What is this, the fourth one we've had?
Yeah.
Or our Shortcuts will be
I
the
think it
fourth
will
one?
be, yeah.
Holy fuck. All right, well, whatever.
Things are coming up Altman.
I wish we had Millhouse back.
And I mean, because you watched, what did you watch? Long Goodbye and California Split this year?
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm so Altman.
And three women.
3 women. This fucking Secret Honor. Yeah, I've done nothing but watch Robert Altman all year. Like,
how do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't think it's my best attribute, to be honest with you. If someone was like, someone asked me how I feel about it, I would probably say I don't think it's my best attribute.
Okay. What about, how would you describe the Altman-esque?
The Altman? My Altman persona, or I know some people like to say fursona. I don't really know what that means, but I'm guessing it's a stand-in for persona. My Altman persona would be more images, California Split or Long Goodbye, and a little less Gosford Park, 3 women, and other things. Like, I watched Gosford Park this year too. Oh. I've watched 7 fucking Robert Altman movies this year. And you know what? You know what's really sad? That's not even 7 Robert Altmans. He's my second watched director. It's not even an 8th of my most watched director, which I know is yours as well.
Core man
himself. Anyways, what were you talking about?
I think we're talking about Tanner 88.
Oh, sure we are.
So what's the pitch of this thing? Our protagonist is one Jack Tanner, a university professor by day,
he's someone,
and Democrat. Works in
party
the
member?
Congress House. He's running for president against Dukakis.
No, I mean, who could even go up against Dukakis? He's a force.
Well, so this was the year where it was Mike Dukakis v. Jesse Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so this idea was that, like, hey, let's skewer politics, because that's what satire is all about. You just type it in. It's the laziest fucking thing you'll see all the time. People talking about, cutting, biting, skewering.
What about slam?
Oh, that's reserved for newspaper headlines about slams.
Oh, yeah. Opinion A slams opinion B.
Under the bus.
Yeah, he just really threw you under the bus. Which bus?
The bus.
Well, like it is. He fucked him.
So, this is Jack Tanner. He's played by, is it Michael Murphy?
Sure, I guess.
Michael Murphy.
Yeah.
He's a nobody. But he's got a plan. His daughter. There's a sob story that we're even told via video about his daughter almost dying. He had a step away, looked after his daughter, but now he's back. He's going to make a difference, like all politicians.
Sure.
He's got the sassy campaign manager with a very contemporary short haircut, T.J. Kavanaugh, played by Pamela Reed. And this is a 11-episode TV miniseries that kind of aired over the course of the year on HBO, corresponding in close proximity to the actual events it would be depicting. Just as like, hey, let's go film that. I guess that's groundbreaking. That's ambitious to shoot a fiction alongside real events and actually incorporate actual politicians into scenes where you actually have Bob Dole talking to, like, I mean, these are politicians though that are like pros in the sense that they've been acting in front of cameras their entire political career, because that's all it is, you know, since like 1960 is it's all about media and television. So these guys, they take to it immediately, and it's pretty seamless. I like the actual, like, you do not question the reality, I don't think, of this whatsoever, which is, I think. Oh, sorry, go ahead, RJ.
Yeah, no. Whether you're going from Bob Dole in his one and only movie appearance, I gotta mention to you, or Jeff Daniels, it is actually pretty seamless. And when you were describing that, I mean, do you think some people describe it as guerrilla filmmaking? Guer, guerrilla filmmaking, not guerrilla filmmaking like Coco, Future Creep.
Right.
Yeah, I had to, because that's coming up soon. No, in the next year or two.
Might be a little longer than that.
No, I'm gonna watch it next year.
Well, that's fine. You can do the right. There you go.
Yep.
We're
gonna record the episode too.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's a chronicle. It goes episode by episode. You see the trials and tribulations of Jack Tanner as he tries to win favor in, you know, New Hampshire, Michigan,
swing states, perhaps.
Swing states. Well, he's got to build up, you know, the votes. He's got to win those primaries.
I don't think votes matter anymore, man.
Yeah.
I mean, in 1988, sure.
Oh, back then.
This is 32 years ago, man. Time has changed.
Time has changed. So, yeah, they pretty well had an endpoint when they started this, being like, well, Tanner, he can't win this election. So that's all they really need to know. So everything is based around just like circumstances, sort of, you know, is it called? We call it sitcom. It's not a sitcom though, or is it?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, it's satire. It should fall under like comedic things because it's like it's too much like real life. But it's supposed to go beyond that. Weirdly enough, RJ, in the last 4 years, reality as we understand it has kind of been blown up. So it's pretty difficult to like kind of go back to like the quaintness of like, oh, the bus with for the journalist broke down, and then they have to catch a ride with a crazy hick in his car and have a dialogue.
And they get their news from the TV like everyone else.
That's right. Yep. It's like, yeah, this is quite a quaint kind of snapshot of what 1988 was. No one had smartphones. No one had ever heard of QAnon. Like, there was, I mean, there was other conspiracies. There was like the octopus. There was people believed in all sorts of things, even at this point. But its spread was not so prevalent, and one could say that maybe issues were a little bit more on the table than they are now, because that's all gone by the wayside. It feels like that anyway. So you're left with this kind of a relic of a more innocent time, where like such hot young faces like John Kerry and Joseph Biden are mentioned in passing.
Not even just like, yeah, it's in passing, but Biden gets brought up a couple times in this thing, more than once.
Now, did you happen to look up the plagiarism scandal that sunk Joe Biden at this time?
I have never. I mean, I saw when they brought it up, but I was like, I'm not going to look into it.
No, that's not what we do here.
Well, that's not what I do.
No.
So yeah, I didn't look into it, but I assumed you'd maybe tell me about it.
Well,
Perhaps. Is that accurate?
well, supposedly he was accused of plagiarizing a speech by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock. Biden's speech had similar lines about being the first person in his family to go to university. Biden had credited Kinnock with the formulation on previous occasions, but did not on two occasions in late August. Earlier that year, he had also used passages from a 1967 speech by Robert Kennedy, for which his aides took blame, and a short phrase from John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. 2 years earlier, he had used a 1976 passage by Hubert Humphrey. Biden responded that politicians often borrow from one another without giving credit, and that one of his rivals for the nomination, Jesse Jackson, had called him to point out that he, Jackson, had used the same material by Humphrey that Biden had used.
I mean, I think there's probably lines that are more telling, but I think it's a bit of a stretch to be like the same story of the first person in your family to go to university.
Yeah.
Hey, Jarrett, I'm the first of my siblings to go to university. Does that amount to anything? I don't know.
Another fun fact for Joe Biden here from February of 1988. After several episodes of increasingly severe neck pain, Biden was taken by ambulance to Walter Reed Army Medical Center for surgery to correct a leaking intracranial berry aneurysm. While recuperating, he suffered a pulmonary embolism, a serious complication. After a second aneurysm was surgically repaired in May, Biden's recuperation kept him away from the Senate for 7 months. I feel like that might have added to him not running so strongly for the presidency rather than this scandal about plagiarism.
I've been there, man. I've done that a million times.
Well, there is also here, another RJ here. He has also made several false or exaggerated claims about his early life, that he had earned 3 degrees in college, that he had attended law school on a full scholarship, that he had graduated in the top half of his class, and that he had marched in the civil rights movement. The limited amount of other news about the race amplified these revelations, and on September 23rd, Biden withdrew from the race, saying his candidacy had been overrun by the, quote, exaggerated shadow of his past mistakes. And here we are.
I mean,
it's like, it's so innocent. It's like, oh, he just pulled the same political bullshit. People say the same thing all the time, but then they were able to get it all together into a ball. You never know what's going to sink you. Maybe you're on jet skis one day. I don't know.
You know, I'm at the point where I don't think anything could sink us. Look at how much we've come through so far. We're unsinkable.
Well, just imagine what happens if we try, though.
To be sunk?
Yeah. Something happens where someone wants to sink us. We're fucked.
I'll just release that video of you really giving that certain kind of... Yeah, it's the After Dark video where you say things you probably shouldn't have.
Right.
Shouldn't.
Right.
100%. 100%.
Whew. So...
What are we talking about?
Joe Biden, who's name-checked several times in the first episode of Tanner 88. Mm-hmm. So, okay, as a piece of entertainment, as something to watch, not the smoothest ride, RJ. I'm not going to lie. As a television show, if I watched the first episode of this, just on Netflix, as one would do, be like, hey, let's check out what this Tanner 88 is that's trending on Twitter here on Friday. I'd be like, nope. Well, part of it is there's also some actual technical elements that really make this. It takes a little bit of getting used to, especially if you're watching this on a big screen with any sort of decent sound, because holy shit, the sound in this is quite poor. I'm not sure if you experienced that, RJ. The sound, the Altman-esque soundscape.
Yeah, so even in this very episode I mentioned how I don't notice things like aspect ratios and sound, I did notice in this thing that there were some weird kind of things bouncing around between either sound or, I don't know, there were a few inconsistencies in general in the filmmaking, quote unquote, artisan type stuff. So yes, I did notice.
I started watching this on a 55-inch television, and then I shifted down to a 27-inch monitor on my iMac, watching it off the Criterion channel. And I found the picture quality improved, being at a smaller density, and the sound seemed better. Not as I don't know. It didn't drive me super crazy or anything like that, but it's because there is people always talk about the Altman soundscape. When you see like McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Long Goodbye, overlapping dialogue, it's like kind of like a cacophony of sound. It's kind of disorienting, but also has a very lived-in space. This doesn't have that because of the very nature, I think, of the production, and so I think the Altman element is really straining against this limitation. This also reminds me a lot of Nashville, which I've only seen once, and I was not a fan, and so that probably didn't help either, I think.
Okay.
I like politics, RJ. I like to follow these things.
You like
me
politics?
I like the idea of it. I'm a would I call myself a political junkie? No, that's for assholes. However, I do follow this stuff pretty closely, and there's like not a lot of media that gets into it. But I mean, I've never watched West Wing ever in my life, but I've watched I've seen that Parks and Rec. I've seen Veep. I've seen like modern television, and so jumping back, 30 years almost to watch this primordial television production, it's a bit rough. And I don't know, the nature of the Altman comedy and the writing and the points being made, the Gary Trudeau stuff, the broadness of what he thinks are big points or something like that, it's just like, what the fuck, this is garbage. Like, this is like not good to me. Like, this is nothing I want to watch. So this is tough to talk about as a movie, because usually the Criterion stuff, we're watching movies and you can kind of talk about movies in a particular way, but this is a television series. Do you watch it because you can't watch it as like, well, it's like it's one big movie, it's just 6 hours long. It doesn't feel like that whatsoever. This is not a scenes from a marriage type deal where this is like this is 6 episodes. It's also been reduced to a movie, but where it feels like a cinematic experience, I guess. And we'll be talking about Fanny and Alexander fairly soon. And I've only ever seen the television miniseries version of it. Completely different vibe. This is watching episodic television. And on that grounds, I am not a fan of this.
Okay.
It's not bad. Like, as it went on, it improved. The first episode, I think, is really tough. Like, the footage of them filming that table with like the McDonald's containers, which really brought me back to when they had styrofoam containers for everything, the cups, the old logos and stuff like that. I was like, oh, but the camera just kind of circles around and around that, but it's framed too tight, and then like you're just kind of thrown into the world because it's like, well, that's what it is. It's the political circus. You have to catch up. Get with your feet moving, otherwise you're gonna fall behind. And it's supposed to be snappy, but the dialogue is like really uninspired. The characters are all like just stereotypes. Like, again, but yeah, the characters are just like they're for the purpose of satire, drawn broad, and they're just types. And I don't know if I ever felt like they ever came around to being their own characters as over the course of those 11 episodes. I mean, really, it's like whatever. TJ, she's kind of the main character, and she has this like ongoing series of conversations, drunken and on the phone with, is it Joe? And it's supposed, is the implication is Joe Kennedy?
I didn't make that connection.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, that seemed to be
not?
like I kind of like. There's always this guy named Joe, and I always wonder, I'm like, who's this Joe? And so anyway, that's her tale. And then there's the daughter, Alexandra, played by Cynthia Nixon, of no relation to Richard, but she went on to be in Sex and the City, I guess.
Well, apparently that's a popular television program.
Also on HBO.
Yeah, it is. I remember Andrea tried watching it and she never really got into it. But the only thing I really know about Sex and the City is that scene in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. where he's talking about Samantha and how she has sex with everyone.
Right.
That's my complete and utter experience with that TV
Right.
show. You're a big fan though, right?
Oh, fuck.
Big Sex and the City boy?
No. So there's Jack Tanner's girlfriend, Joanna, who's like, the whole big thing was her. So she actually works for Dukakis, but the relationship started beforehand. So scandal down the road. There is the guy's name's Emil Burkhoff, played by Jim Fife. He's the optimist, I guess. He's like the one who he really believes in the dream of a democratic nation, I guess. And he loves the spirit of America. That he's that wide-eyed. He hasn't been beaten down yet. There is the pretentious filmmaker, Deke, who's just like whatever. Like that is like, I don't know. Somebody thought that was funny, I'm sure, but yeah.
I think this whole thing, somebody thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the Andrea character.
Yeah. And what's her deal?
She's just like she's ditzy and kind of a flake. And her arc is that by the end she becomes honed down into a fine tool. She plays the character in a sitcom where it's like, oh, she's like a real flake and really flighty, but then she turns out she's really good at something, and it changes the course of things because she can raise money. But and you're like, okay, I've seen that before.
Mm-hmm. But are you saying that's not groundbreaking?
I might be saying that. And then you get the grumpy father, where it's like, oh, the main character has a rough relationship with his father, who's very judgmental, and then by the end he comes around.
Wow, is this how real life works? Do you think?
No.
Wow,
it sure is. Ralph Nader shows up.
Fucking Nader. Do you think people still think Nader might win one day? Is he still running every year?
No, he stopped a while back.
But he ran for a long, long time, right?
A few times.
Would you vote for Nader?
Well, RJ.
Yeah. Yes.
Tanner 88.
Okay, yeah.
It's a TV show that
exists.
Yeah, that has been far surpassed by many other shows that do similar things, but are funny, well written, better acted, more engaging, compelling. Tanner 88, I feel, is just not compelling television to me.
Okay.
And sure. I don't know. I don't really have too much more to add at this point. I'm looking forward to hear what you thought of this, because I think that
really,
yeah, I suspect that you are probably less engaged with this than I was, but
it's possible.
We're gonna find out here momentarily. I don't know. It's out of the way. I've watched it. Mm-hmm. This gets brought up.
Good timing.
Good too. Very, very strange timing, I guess, of all times that we could be watching this of any time of the year, immediately after a presidential election in the United States of America, starring Joe Biden and some other guy.
I mean, when we started the podcast 4 years ago, we didn't do it with the intent. It's like, in 4 years,
it's gonna work when dynamite.
When there's gonna be another election, we're gonna do Secret Honor and Tanner 88. It's gonna blow people's fucking minds. We didn't do that. I wish we could take credit for it, but it's just convenient.
How do you feel about Cinema Verte, RJ? I know you're a Cassavetes boy, so this is Cinema Verte to the max. But not because it's fictional.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like Cinema Verte, but in my opinion, I don't think this is. It's all scripted, so it's not. It's fake.
Mostly scripted, and
it's like if we're talking about burrito sauce and we're talking about Cafe Verde, the place that you and me like to go eat sometimes for lunch. It's not actual Verde. It's like mild. It's not hot Verde. It's mild Verde. Cinema Verde. It's almost the same word, right?
Yeah.
almost. Yeah, it's not guerrilla filmmaking, GUE, and it's not guerrilla, GOR. It's some other kind of guerrilla.
So the New York Times called the show an interesting misfire that, quote, insists too much on its own sophistication about politics. The same paper held the second episode in higher esteem, calling it, quote, humorous cinema verite that's, quote, slick and occasionally witty, much like you, RJ.
Wow, that is the biggest compliment you have ever given me.
In its Best of 1988 look at television, Time magazine called Tanner 88, quote, the year's definitive satire of media politics.
Well, I mean,
another mention of Tanner skewering things.
Do you think
I fucking hate? I can't stress how much I fucking hate satire. Like that's like when something's called a satire, like when they say satirical and you must like it because it's like shut the fuck up. I hate it now. I hate it. Stop it.
I hope the email bag next week isn't just all about being skewered by satire.
Fucking bring it on. We won't read your fucking emails, assholes. You're done. You're done.
And you know what? That's an honest threat, or that's not even a threat. That's a promise because I don't have access to the emails, guys. If he says he's not going to read them, he's not going to read them. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, it'll be weird when we have an empty mailbag next week.
Because every single subject, skewering satire. Podcast host slams skewering satire media. Things like that. I think those reviews are actually somewhat fitting.
Anyway, RJ, what did you think of Tanner 88?
You want to know what I thought about this fucking movie, Jarrett?
This fucking show?
This fucking movie show?
So I like that you're calling this a movie when it's a show, but you call movies shows. I just want to throw that out there.
Hey, can I tell you something?
What's that?
If I'm not accurate, at least I'm consistent.
Consistently frustrating.
Consistently inaccurate. I think there's a Modest Mouse lyric where it's like it's about being consistently inconsistent, consistently, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's got a nice ring to it, inconsistently inconsistent all the time, something like that. Anyways, so this movie show, movie flick, I found, and I didn't mean to lead in like this, but I found this to be one of the most inconsistent Criterions we've watched in recent history, and by that I mean in the last year. And so those reviews I think actually summarize it a lot. I thought Tanner 88 won. Dude, I barely made it through that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna just call you and be like, well, you don't have a phone, but I was gonna message you and be like, I'm done the podcast forever. Because I was like, I can't do 10 more of these.
I know.
I really can't.
Yeah.
And then I watched 2 and 3, and I was like, these are better.
They actually go by pretty fast too, because they also have these like non-endings where they're just like you're watching it and then it just stops, and you go, what?
And then it stops.
And then you're like, oh, thank God for that. And then
DS9 style.
Yeah.
But the problem though is episode 1 is 1 hour.
Yes.
Episode 2 and 3 are 30 minutes
a piece.
So it flips back and forth, but then so episode 1 absolutely killed me. I wanted to quit. I was like, I can't stand this. 2 and 3, I was like, pretty good.
It's a show.
Pretty good show. Like quote unquote, that's copyrighted. That's our merchandise. I don't even remember the episodes, but it went like this. Hated it. Not too bad. And then completely irrelevant, or like nothing. So I think it was maybe episode 4 where I hit a dip again, where I was just like, I don't care about anything that's happening in this thing.
Let's take a look at the episodes quick. I was like looking this up, like no one really talks about this other than like they talk about like Altman's at one point thought this was the best thing he'd ever done, which is,
of course he did.
But of course, like every director like will say this is the best thing I've ever done every time they make a new project. And I think there's even a joke about that in the Criterion essay that accompanies this.
Yeah. And like, of course.
So the first episode is The Dark Horse.
Yeah.
And this is the one where they're doing the whole like focus group on his horrible like video
Ad.
package. It's just like garbage, and then it ends with this big like, whoa, when he really unleashes his like real ideals and talks straight, and then the verite man is shooting it under the glass table, so it's very art with a big A, and that's how it ends. And you're like, oh yeah, that's the thing going forward, and they're like, we're going to capitalize on it for real.
Yeah. Do they?
Yeah, they do. And then of course they're like, well, no one knows what to make of it, because it's like they're presenting it this way as an ad, and of course they have like, you know, some hoople heads in, what is it, Michigan or Nashville? I lose track of where it seems to play around.
Heads.
And they're like, what the hell was that? And they're like, yeah, what the hell was that? And then they're like, oh yeah, we gotta do more things like that. And even like the guy tries to recapture the moment in the office, and Jack Tanner's like already like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, and well, because his whole thing is what they want him to do is opposite of what he wants to do, and it's like, it's a joke.
Yeah. And then there's also the other character that is following them around, the journalist writer.
Oh, Benny from The Mummy.
Yes.
You remember Benny?
No.
From The Mummy?
I don't remember Benny
Brendan
from The
Fraser?
Mummy, but I remember Guy, man. And he's he comes he's the Hunter S. Thompson on the campaign trail.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes him tick? He's very captivating because that's what the TV show is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, well, I know. I mean, that is his character. I think he's one of the better characters in that, like, so like what you said earlier, none of the characters actually get too much growth or development or anything. And not like, I don't really give a shit about that, but none of them are actually like, there's like some, like, you have some archetypes of them. They're like, this character's this character's that. And they do it a little bit, but for the most part, the only character I actually thought actually kind of filled her role was the campaign manager, the short hair lady. But I don't think that's even her. That's just what that lady is like in everything she does. What's her name? Pamela Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that lady, like, so I think she actually fits that role a lot, but like, that's the same role she has in Kindergarten Cop. That's the same role she has in Junior.
Yeah.
It's the same role she has in Cadillac Man. So it's like, I think she fills it up pretty good, but it's like, I think that's just what that lady is. I don't know. I could be wrong.
That's her character.
Maybe I'm not giving Pamela Reed enough credit, but yeah, her and Benny from The Mummy, Brendan Fraser, they fit pretty well. She's in a movie with Stacy Keach called Hemingway.
Oh, was she Hemingway's wife?
She plays Hemingway.
Oh,
and he plays her wife.
Well, that's wild.
His wife.
How ahead of the time?
I know, pretty wild. Were you gonna hit some more episodes, or do you?
So yeah, episode 3 is the Night of the Twinkies. That's the one that I always remember is Jack Tanner meets up with the Baptist minister to have a long conversation, and then they get ambushed by the well-meaning idiot who says, "We want the media on this for the moment," and it's like, oh damn, I wasn't supposed to do that. So that backfires, and then and then episode 4, the one that kills you again.
Yep.
Where it's like, I'm reading this description right now, I'm like, I don't remember this episode at all. Like, I don't remember, like, other than I guess it introduces the father.
Oh, fuck yeah. So it's so far from my mind. I watched it 2 days ago. I watched this over 3 days, by the way, because I could not get it all done in one day. I had the time. I got 2 hours in, and I was like, I'm done. And then the next day I watched another 2 hours, and I was like, I can't watch anymore. Mm-hmm. And then the next day another. So it took me 3 days to watch it, and I barely finished. I thought it was only 10 episodes. And then last night I finished 10, and I saw there was an 11, and I honestly, my heart stopped. I was like, there's another episode? Because it's like, you know, that like disappointment where you're just like, I didn't know that. You're sad in yourself because you let yourself down. That was me. But yeah, episode 4 really killed me.
Mm-hmm.
Really killed me.
That's followed by episode 5, Bagels with Bruce.
Fuck, I don't know. I don't even remember. I have like some vague notes. 5. All I have for 5 is a screen cap that is, quote, Italian food.
Okay.
So,
well,
yep.
I think at one point, the one guy he considers joining the Dukakis campaign. And
yeah, he tries.
And well, he's there and he sees that the girl that he saw in Tanner's hotel room is also a staff member there. And it's like, how long till that all becomes known? And it's like the next episode, I think. Yeah.
And the next episode, my only note was Rebecca De Mornay. Cool.
Child's
She
Play.
does it like it is. She does a pretty good job.
Yeah, where they go to the daycare center and he's like speechifying to the children.
Yeah. And he's like, do you know about the economy? And
that's the joke.
But I liked Rebecca De Mornay because she actually hits him with a line I actually thought was really good in this, where he gives the typical like political speech, and she goes like, "Can you talk normal for even a second?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what you really think about anything?" And he goes, "Yeah, of course, I get it. I'll be right back." And then he just leaves. He walks away. He never comes back.
No.
Rebecca De Mornay.
And then someone from the Dukakis campaign joins them. And then we got The Great Escape, episode 7.
Do you know what my note for that was?
Sure.
All capital letters, AIDS. Because all they talk that's the AIDS episode.
That's the heavy episode?
That's the heavy episode. It's very AIDS heavy.
Right. What? Oh, no, it's okay. I'm reading ahead here. Then there's the next episode is The Girlfriend Factor.
Yeah.
And that's the one that ends with
wedding?
him in, or is that the one? No, that's not the wedding yet. That's the next episode. This is the one that ends where he's like in Detroit, and it's just like, again, it's real heavy. Talking about what are you going to do about the war on crime and the war on drugs and America's future, and it's a lot of like listening.
Mm-hmm. And people going like this.
Yeah, I'm sure Gary Trudeau and Robert Altman looked at each other and nodded. We're doing it, buddy.
They say, yeah, we're right.
Yeah. And then the next episode is the wedding episode. That isn't a wedding episode. It's kind of like when Batman and Catwoman were supposed to get married at issue 50, and then they didn't, and it was all part of Bane's plan.
Well, the only thing about that is hopefully people, like maybe independent business owners, hopefully they didn't put too much stake into that.
Right. Well, I mean, what if they're next door to a wedding store and they had all these plans?
I would do a big plan, but if it didn't work out, I would probably tweet to DC Comics and let them know about it.
Well, DC Comics might not even be publishing comics themselves in like a year or so. So who knows?
Who do you think they'll sell to?
Wow,
Image?
They'll sell someone else. They'll license it. They'll license it out.
I gotcha.
So then we transition to the Democratic and National Convention.
Sure we do.
Everyone loves that. And I guess this is like when it gets a little bit more ambitious with the timing of things, where like they're actually filming it on the floor of the DNC.
Is that good?
You'd recognize Harry Anderson in this?
No.
Okay.
Who's Harry Anderson?
You remember Night Court, Dave's World? Remember those shows?
Dude, those shows aired like 10 years before I was born.
They were concurrent with your existence.
What, when I was like 6 months old?
Yeah, Night Court was probably still on. John Larroquette?
I know the name.
You know Bill or Bull?
I know Bill from King of the Hill. Is that the same Bill?
No.
Bill Dauterive?
Unfortunately not. But yeah, Harry Anderson I recognize. I was like, hey, there he is. He's like a fixer type of guy. He's the big gun that you bring in to run shit. So yeah, the last two episodes kind of feel like your climax of a season. It's like all building to this. But there's also like that air of like, no urgency and no suspense because you know that it can't work out. But did it almost convince you, RJ? Did you almost think Jack Tanner's gonna be the nominee?
No.
No one did. And then so it ends on that kind of that, and then the last episode is just the wrap up. Lots of shots of things on the ground being trampled upon, the cleanup, and there's this whole long build up of like trying to get him to run again, just like you would for a second season that never comes. And you even get him looking directly at the camera. Lots of Jack Tanner, lots of Michael Murphy looking at the camera, and you're imagining the Curb Your Enthusiasm music playing.
Oh, no. Oh, let's speak about the music for a second. So I feel there's two camps of people here.
Yep.
And I haven't read anything into this. I never Googled Tanner 88. I don't know anything about what
I think that's why the first episode's so bad.
I agree. But there's two kinds of people here, Jarrett. People who are like, I love the inclusion of the voting jingle. Exercise your right to vote. It is brought up I think it's about every 17 minutes throughout the 6 hours that jingle comes up. First 2 episodes, it is the same. Then they try to play around with it a little bit, give it a little new spin, new genre, new artists.
It's kind of like Fly Me to the Moon from Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Except it is not as... It's nowhere near as effective as what it is in that movie show.
What about when TJ sings it very, like, sadly, dejectedly?
I mean, and that's what I mean. You're two camps. People who are going to love it because of how often it's played and then the spin that they have where they remix it with new stuff. And then you have the other side who are, by the 3rd episode, you go, if I hear exercise your right to vote again, I'm going to fucking lose it.
It is.
And then you get 8 more episodes of that.
That's an exaggeration, RJ. Which I know I know you don't do often. I know you don't do it often.
Once an episode, does it not? At least once.
I think it dissipates. I don't know if it necessarily appears in every version. You start getting some remixes.
That's what I. Yeah,
but it is so blaring in that first one. Like it sucks so much.
I hate you with it hard.
Oh yeah, real hard.
Yeah. So that's problematic.
So we get to the end.
Yeah.
Of the show, and so what do you think, RJ?
I mean.
So because you went in an hour in to the 6 hour run, you were looking for a phone to call me to say I'm done. Yep. So how did you feel at the end of episode 11?
So here's what I'll tell you. And when I led with, I think this is one of the most inconsistent ones. There's episodes of this thing. There's hour segments of this that I think are absolute shit. I was just like, I don't like this at all. It's not. I'm getting nothing out of this. But then there are some episodes where I actually like some of what they're building on, some of the dialogue, some of the ideas they play around with are actually very good. So it's like, I see this, I like this, but then there's also this other shit pile here. For me, this is such a 50-50 thing. I can't even classify it. It's like half of it is good. Half of it, I wish I hope I will never see again in my life. So it's like, I don't know where to classify this thing. After 11 episodes, there's some things I like. There's a lot of things I don't like. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. It's completely, this is the middle point of the Criterion Collection for me so far. We're not even, actually,
middle.
That's not true.
No.
Armageddon is my middle point. For in my ranked list, Armageddon's my middle, but I don't know. It's really strange. Like a bunch of it I don't like, but there's a lot of scenes where it's like I actually like some of the dialogue, and they actually build up some good things. What they're playing around with, they have good ideas. But you know what they needed to do? This shouldn't have been a 6-hour TV show. This should have been a 2-hour thing that was just fucking sharp.
Like primary, like you mean like Primary Colors, or watch the documentary. Was it the War Room? The War, whatever it is. Yeah. Like
that would work too. They could have cleaned it up so much.
This is my problem. Is there's so many better versions of this. Watch those. Don't watch this. Yep. This is just not good. I don't think.
Instead of 6 hours, make it 2 hours and only keep the good stuff. And then this would have actually been like, ooh, that's pretty good. Because I don't think it benefits from spacing it out. There's a lot of things that benefit from the space. Star Trek DS9 benefits from spacing it out. Tanner 88, not as much. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, other people might really like it, and that's fine. I don't like whatever. It's like I said, I think there's really good stuff, but I think there's a lot of things in this where I'm like, I don't know what they were going for here. Like, it's not landing almost at all, but yeah. That's just me.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Did you watch any movies this week?
Didn't have time because I had to keep watching this. You want to hear from like only one person who really hates this because nobody watches this thing and logs it on Letterboxd really. Yep. Jeff Lehman.
Okay.
2.5 stars. An excellent collection of beginning episodes give way a morass of overwriting that I imagine came from pressure to form a narratively conventional ending, ultimately losing what made it so good. The freewheeling, anarchic improvisation, still fascinating as the text to almost all political comedy today, from The Daily Show to Sacha Baron Cohen to Veep. Doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think, like, so you brought up West Wing earlier. West Wing, Veep, any of those,
my go-to
vaguely political
Armando
mockumentaries.
Iannucci, Thick of It, or the Thick of It is like, or In the Loop, the movie.
Yeah,
all vastly superior.
Yeah, and like, so those are all in the same kind of wheelhouse, as you would say. All those things, like, and I know, so I saw there was that like West thing, and I was thinking of like, I saw when I just pulled up these reviews of people who hate, I saw someone pick out Aaron Sorkin West Wing or something like that, and I've never seen West Wing either, but I was like, that's such fucking horse shit. Like, it's like these things that it's like, because they exist in the same like nebula of political TV shows, it's like they're an influence because he says it's an influence, and it's like, fuck that. It's like, does that even matter? Does that mean anything? I don't think so.
I do still see I see a few people, including our own Jared Berger, who mentions Parks and Rec, which, like, again, is like, Parks and Rec, though, is like really well written with great
Parks
characters,
super good,
with like amazing, like, fuck. It's just like, this is, I don't know. If you're talking, again, we're talking about comedy that hasn't aged well, or whatever this is. This is dry humor, though. Like, this is, like, I think that some people might think this is the fucking funniest thing, but goddamn, to me, this is just like, I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, what is this doing with television as a format? Even like the banner image of this on Letterboxd, like, looks so much better than actually watch it, because it's really like that shot on video look.
Well, it's like I said,
so low rent,
inconsistent,
and I watch like nothing but lo-fi shithouse horror stuff that I think looks, and it works really well. And this, though, I don't know. You watch, like, Don't Look Back, the Maisels brothers documentary, or no, not Maisels brothers, the Bob Dylan documentary. You know what I'm talking about?
Constant Forge.
Yeah,
it's not Rolling Stone. Is that what it is called? Or
that's one of them. It's
something in between those two things.
Don't Look Back, directed by D.A. Pennybaker. Am I going? Did I get it right before I click on it?
Monterey Crew.
I just need a second sometimes. That's cinema verite. That's real. That's shot on film. Looks great. Very different entity from like 1967. But this Tanner 88, boy howdy.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Well, it's like I said, inconsistent. Much like Jeff Lehman's film tastes.
There we go.
He's got good stuff like Miyazaki, like 5-star films, Miyazaki movies, Badlands, Brazil, Brokeback Mountain, Mulholland Drive. But then he has stuff like Raw, Call Me by Your Name, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Frank Santoro, I'm looking at you, bud. But then there's other good stuff like Paddington 2, he gave 5 stars, and Blair Witch. But then he gave House of the Devils 5 stars. And it's like, and then like half-star films, these are like, I think a lot of these like things, they probably are half-star films, but like it seems too much like the Irony Crowd, like Fantastic Four, like the Corman one, Suicide Squad, Episode 3, Star Wars. That movie's not a half-star, not really. I think it's just fun for people to make fun of it for some reason. I don't know. It gave 1 star to The Last Jedi. Or actually 1 star to The Rise of Skywalker, whatever that means. This person hates Star Wars movies. Stop watching them. Problem solved.
No.
Problem solved. Anyways.
You got any parting thoughts here?
I like how all these people on Letterboxd were giving star ratings to individual episodes. 2 stars, episode 2.
Yeah.
2 stars, episode 1. 2.5 stars, episode 7. 3 stars, 2 episodes 3 and 4. And it's like,
well, just check out the ones that I liked. That's how it works, right?
yeah. Or just wait until you finish the whole fucking thing and then put it all in one review. Like, you could do that also. Guys, like Globra, you could just do that. Guys.
What do you feel like you take away from 1088? What is the statement of the state of American politics, of America in 1988, and perhaps now?
My takeaway? I'd rather be doing something else.
Yeah, I feel like we're living in something that's more interesting. I think, like all the time. Like Twitter is 1088 all the time, and we're all part of the entertainment.
Yeah,
we're all part of it. We're all playing a part.
It's
horrible. I want out. I want
depression.
out. I want to be in the. I want SAG, like union dues. I want like stress leave. I want out of the show of this horror show.
I mean, there's an easy option to end it all.
Can we cancel the show?
Can cancel each other.
Just like whatever happened to that Jarrett character.
If we stopped right now, how long do you think it would take for us to disappear from the world? 2 weeks? Like our carbon footprint on the internet? How long do you think it would take?
I don't know. There might be some of our crud left on that data pipeline I hear so much about.
For like, I don't know, 2 months maybe.
No.
Then people would give up. They'd be like, they're gone. Fuck them.
Fuck them.
Fuck them. Yeah.
After the break, we've lost the podcast elections.
Good.
But we're going to put up an appeal.
I don't know who we'd lose to. We are the only podcast, Jarrett.